Hi gang, I've got 3 specific questions that we're going to answer today in Photoshop. One is Callie's asked how to use the magic wand and effectively eliminate color in the background. And Amanda asks how to select and deselect and how to make an image fill, quote unquote, the space. And Nayla asks how to layer the photo and how to delete backgrounds. So a couple of those are similar. So let's get started. I'm going to go and open up Photoshop. And as it opens, I'm going to make sure that I've got my images, which I hope I do. And so now Photoshop is open, but I'm not going to create a new file. Instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to File, and I'm going to open one of my images. So, whoops, there, File, Open. I'm going to navigate to the image that I have created of my person, my portrait, and here it is. Now, I'm not recommending that you make a headless portrait. I just happen to have this one, and I think it'll work well to talk about what we're talking about. So I'm going to make this bigger so you guys can hopefully see it. And this is going to be, it is right now just an image, just a general image, but I want to save this as my main carte de visite. So what I'm going to do is the very first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to save it as, and I'm going to point it not to downloads but to my desktop, and I'm going to save it as carte de visite, but not as a JPEG. I'm not saving it as a JPEG. I'm saving it as a Photoshop document. So just to show you that again, this is dictating to me. This is telling me what my file type is, and this is where I can change it. There's all kinds of things that I can change it to, but right now what I want to do is save it as a regular old PSD or Photoshop document, and I'm going to save it on my desktop into a folder called the same thing. So I've got a folder, I'm saving my Photoshop document. Okay, I did that because it's safe. Now I have a safety document. And when I save it, it's going to save all the things that I do within Photoshop. And I'll talk about that more. If you save it as a JPEG, it just flattens it out. Okay. So the next thing I want to do is I want to bring in the other images that I have. So I thought I opened them up, and now I don't see them. So that's interesting. If I go under Window, are they there? No. So I'm going to File, Open. Go back to my downloads, go back to here, 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 here. That's the one I have, and the rest of these I want to open up, so I'm hitting Shift, getting all of those, opening them up, just like I did before, because I'm not sure why they stopped, but we'll just do it again. All right. And now so here they are. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 images that I want to pull into my main PSD document. And this is how I'm going to do it. I'm going to this guy because I want to get some portion of this book. And one thing I can do is use my shortcut for Command All, which is for Select All, which is Command A. But I want to show you the long cut for that. So let me deselect. Oh, I meant to show you deselect, didn't I? Okay, so select is at the top under the Photoshop file that goes across on the top. I can Photoshop select all. Notice the shortcut Command A. That gets everything, right? So this shows me everything that I'm getting. And then I'm going to Command Copy, right? Command C. I'm going to copy that guy. And now I'm going to go back over to my main Photoshop document where I'm going to paste. So Edit, Paste. Notice the shortcut. You probably all know this. Command V. By default, Photoshop creates a layer for every time you paste. So I'm going to say great. It's not going to let me do anything until I get rid of these things, which basically I just have to hit enter. I say okay, yes, I'm done with that one. Now if I turn off my background layer, I only have my bird by bird. I still have him. It looks like he's off, but I still have him. So I can scale this or I can leave it. It doesn't matter. Right now what I want to do is just have him. And I'm going to label this layer bird by bird so I'm really sure and I don't get confused. I'm going to also make a copy of my background layer. I'm going to show you how to do that. Let me turn my alarm off. Let's see if I can just pull this guy off. Pulling my layers off, making that a little bit smaller so it's easier to handle and deal with. You can pretty much you can definitely customize your Photoshop surface so that it works best for you, whatever circumstance you're in. So when you're in a tight circumstance, you can do one thing, and when you're not, you can do a different thing. I'm going to make a copy of my background layer by simply dragging this down to the Create Layers palette, and another layer comes up. I'm going to turn this off again, just another way to keep safe. And I'm going to name this one so it's not called background, it's just going to be called figure. Name them whatever makes sense to you, right? Okay, so now I've got a figure layer. I've got a background layer that's going to be my safety layer. That's my background layer. There's my figure. It's the same right now, but it's going to change. There's my bird by bird. Okay, now I'm going to go back over here and I'm going to close this one because I no longer need it. I'm coming over here. I want this one too. Before I take this one though, I'm going to manipulate it a little bit by turning it. And an easy way to do that is to go up to the top level, Photoshop, image rotation, and it's just right there. I'm going to do that. Okay, now I'm going to show you a different way to select. That last one was select all. Here's another way. Here's another selection tool. It's just the marquee select tool. It does like that. I haven't got exactly what I want here, and I actually really like the funky edges of old tape that have been on the wall, and since I'm trying to get the sense of history here, I'm probably not going to use that. So let me show you how I might deselect. Up under the top level Photoshop bar, you select, and then you select, deselect. The shortcut for which is Command D on a Mac or Control D on a PC. So that makes it go away, right? And what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to select the polygon lasso tool, which simply lets me make points about how I want to select that. I'm going to get all these guys, and I can mess with it more once I'm in. I'm just going to do this because I want to have it a little bit worked with, so not completely. And if I get to here, I can double click and it'll make a shape. And now I'm going to select that, which I can do by going to the select tool, select. I've got it selected. And I'm going to copy it, right? So that's edit, copy, or shortcut, Command C. So get your left hand working so that you can do that. And now I've got it in my clipboard. I'm going to go back here and I'm going to Command V. And there it is, right? And I'm not going to worry too much right now about the fact that it's larger than it wants to be. I'm going to call it Pete's note. And then just going to do the same thing. I'm going to go back here. I'm going to close that guy. I no longer need him, and I don't need to save him. And I'm going to go here, and this is the thing that I want now is that. Let's see. I can select it a number of different ways, but I'll just do this. It's the marquee select. Command copy. I've made the selection. I'm just copying it. I'm going back to my carte de visite and doing the same thing. Command V. Here's my layer, and it is rubber band. And I can go back here and close that. I don't need it anymore. Go here, and here's my architecture. So I'm going to Command A. I want all of the architecture. Command C, which is copy. Command V. That's okay. And I'm going to call this. If this one comes up, you can just cancel it. I'm going to call this one house. And then back to house, I don't need it. Let's go here, stairwell, Command A, Command C, and come back here, Command V, that's okay. Steps. All right, so theoretically, these are all things that I might want to put into my, I'm going to close this one and just come back here, put into my image, right? So I've got all these things, I've labeled them, so I'm not going to get confused. And there's a couple of questions that I think I can answer right now that you had. I'm going to turn everything on, and I want to show you one thing, which is if I just select this layer, if I put my hand up in the middle of this layer and I put this one, pull it down, then notice that it goes underneath the layer that was on top of that. And if I do that, or if I take this guy and move him up, he'll be very easy to see. Shim shalabim, look at that. Okay, so what I have here is really kind of a mess. That's okay. I can have a mess here if I want. When I talked about changing the canvas, that was one of the reasons that I was thinking we would do that, is because you can move things out and sort of see them through. So I think what I'll do right now is change my canvas size, even though that wasn't part of our assignment. And so right now I've got a big file that I don't need to be nearly this big, but I'm going to go ahead and leave it big for right now because it doesn't really matter. I can shrink it down. So I've got 42 inches. Let's make it 60 inches wide, and let's make it 80 inches tall. Okay, now I'm going to Command 0 or Control 0, and that's going to put everything in my point of view, in my view. And I think now something I can do that will be helpful is to show you the magic wand tool. So what I have now is I've basically put a border here with my canvas. I want to make that white so that I can see it. The canvas doesn't print. The canvas is just this area around my image. So what I'm going to do is take my magic wand, which is here, and use it. Notice that when everything is the same color, it picks it up, right? So I've got this dark black, probably it is black, you know, that's back here, but then look how it bleeds into these things that are not black, right? Here's the grout in between this terrible floor we have in the kitchen. And the shoe, but this is sort of a brown color. It looks like it's just a deep brown. So something about the magic wand tool that is important is this. Set range when sampling color, or just that you can set the range. This is the tolerance. So the magic wand tool selects a small section of, or a specified section of pixels, right? So it's on 30. Let me deselect this, Command D or Control D. If I make this much less, let's make it 10, and watch what happens. It doesn't get these things that are less than, these are out of the range of that deep black. These are still deep black. And Command D, I'm going to do it again and just see what happens when I go down to, let's say, 5. Okay, now I only have that outside edge. And if I want to, I can change this color in the following way. I'm going to go up to the top row and I'm going to go Edit, Fill. And I can tell it white or gray or pattern or content aware or color or blah, blah, blah. What I'm going to do right now is just make that white. There. It just makes it a little bit easier for me to see. Now I'm going to Command D. All right, so now I'm going to go back to your questions. Your questions are how to layer the photo and how to delete backgrounds. All right, so I think I showed you layers, right? And how to delete backgrounds. So this is, I mean, I definitely don't want this stuff, right? This is super uninteresting. I'm interested in how colorful this child is. So I'm going to do some things here to get rid of the background. One thing is, when I find light colors like this, like this is a color that I might want to sample with the magic wand. Let's just see what happens when I do it with the current tolerance. It's not very many, so I'm going to deselect, right? Select, deselect, Command D, and I'm going to change the tolerance to 30 and come back. And now it's getting more things here, but that's fine with me because I'm going to get rid of this anyway. But notice what a beautiful outline it makes here. That's great. I'm happy with that. And I could just delete that.